Thank you, Dr. M. Mashuriya, for your valuable speech. Now, our Associate and Coordinator, Khandakar Mashfiq Ahmed, will say few words about our guest of honor, Mr. M.D. Saiful Islam.
Thank you. Assalamu alaikum. It is a great pleasure to introduce our guest of honor, Mr. Saiful Islam. Mr. Islam, one of the leading businessmen and industrialists in the country, was born in 1960. After graduating from Bangladesh Marine Academy, he completed marine engineering from UK in 1985. Mr. Islam started his career in the Bangladesh Merchant Navy in 1979 at the age of 19 only. From being a mariner by education, he joined his family textile business in 1986. In 1997, he established Picard Bangladesh Limited, a German-Bangladesh joint venture, to produce leather goods under the brand name Picard. Then, in the year 2000, he formed a shipbuilding company, namely Western Marine Shipyard Limited, one of the largest shipyard in Bangladesh. Picard Bangladesh Limited, which started its journey with a factory and only 60 people, today is the largest leather goods manufacturing company in Bangladesh and has 250,000 square feet of manufacturing facilities and a workforce of around 1,600 people. During his 31 years of professional career, Mr. Islam has contributed a lot in the business and economic development of our country. Mr. Islam is currently the President of Leathergoods and Footwear Manufacturer and Exporter Association of Bangladesh and former President of Bangladesh German Chamber of Commerce and Industry. He also served as the Director of Syro Hill Resorts and the Chairman of New Western Marine Shipbuilders Limited, the Narayanganj Engineering Shipbuilding Limited, Banga Dredgers Limited, Subornabhumi Resorts Meghna Munshigan, and most recently we congratulate Mr. Islam on becoming the President of the Confederation of International Footwear Association. Ladies and gentlemen, with this I'd like to call him to the stage to say a few words.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I would like to congratulate Rahman Chamber for their 11th anniversary, and I express my sincere gratitude for inviting me on this august occasion to say something on the corporate law and corporate culture. Coming from the private sector, having no knowledge about the legal side of it, the company law and company act is quite a technical part for me. But nevertheless, this is the basic structure of a company under the regulatory framework. Normally, whenever we form any company, that company is being formed within the legal structure of Bangladesh, but same can be formed within the global perspective, taking into consideration how the business is moving. If there is any ambiguity for the formation of the company, for legal entity, we take support from the Apex Code of Bangladesh, and same can be resolved through the Apex Code. But in practice, I have found that forming a company, when we have our Bible, that is Memorandum of Article of Association, if we keep it flexible, then it becomes easier for maneuvering the company. So I would, depending on my experience in the private sector and going through the legal process, I would request upon that forming a company, although we have our legal advisor and all, but the Memorandum of Article of Association is the Bible, and initially if you take care about that, then later on for diversification and merging and amalgamation, or acquisition, it becomes easier, but still then we have to go to the apex code, that is the high code. About the corporate culture, what I feel that is really the core field for us. Suppose we all are sitting down here, we are human beings, we have our life, we have our personality, and with this personality we express our character. Any company which is being formed under the Company Act of Bangladesh should have the corporate culture. If we want to see, then let's go to the philosophical part of it. Any living being has a life. So normally what we think that a company doesn't have a life, but company has a life. The company itself has a character. The company itself has a personality. What is that character? What is that personality? That is the corporate culture. The corporate culture, I will see in that way that nowadays we talk about the compliance issue. The compliance issue, it is a broad aspect and it has a guideline. But beyond the compliance, it doesn't have the limitation, doesn't have the horizon, and doesn't have the yardstick to measure it. For example, let's talk about the ethical part of a corporate culture. That day, Dr. Riaz was there also. We had been talking with the CEO of Bangladesh. So he was talking about the ethical part of it. The ethical part is that being the CEO of Bangladesh, he was telling that they are not allowed to give any gift to any public servant more than 20 US dollars. If they have to give any sort of any gift over $20, they have to get prior permission from the headquarters. This is the ethical part of it. Another thing is that when we characterized a personal character, we talk about the values, that how much values a person gives to other person. Same in the company culture, it is the values, it is the people, it is the employee who is working under the employer. Whether the values is there, if the values is there, the company culture is there. Traditionally, Dr. Riaz, you have been working for the development, and IFC is working with the private sector directly, but as a whole, the World Bank is working with our government for the development part. But we say that PPP, that is public-private partnership. But for me, the PPP means it is the planet, it is the people, and it is the profitability. If we can combine all these three P into the corporate culture, if we address the environment issue, if we address the global warming, that how Bangladesh, how much carbon dioxide or any toxic gas that Bangladesh is emitting, it is one of the lowest in the world, but Bangladesh is badly affected by the global warming. Bangladesh is badly affected by this climate change. That means that the other part of the world, they cannot deny from their responsibility what they have done for this climate change. At the same time, from our side, if we can take some measures to emit less toxic gas, that means that we will be addressing the planet, the people. As Dr. Riaz has said rightly, that 2 million people are coming into our workforce every year. Private sector has got a significant role to employ them. It is 50% of this, because within the 7th five-year plan, the government said that it should be manufacturing-led growth, it should be export-led growth. If it is export-led growth, then we have the flexibility of earning the foreign currency, and we can also generate work. That means that for the people, the middle P, we have a responsibility for the employment and decent responsibility to take care of our employee under the corporate culture. Then if we come about the last P, about the profitability, about business, it is important for us to think about two aspects, two partners. One partner is the financial partner, that is the banking sector with whom we are working, and the strategic partner. Banking sector, if I want to say that the cost of doing business, that is cost of fund, is still high, and the funding is always short-term funding, it is not long-term funding. This is being discussed in many ways, but if we talk about the strategic partner, without having a strategic partner, the business cannot grow, and it cannot go into a different height. We have not seen any small or medium-sized enterprises has gone into the margin, or they have been done the acquisition or amalgamation. There is nothing happening. That means that we need a cultural shift of our mindset, especially about the small and medium enterprises. Recently we have seen some multinational big companies, there were two merging, that means Cinex. We have seen the Ecatel merging with Robi, but we have not seen merging in any private sector, regardless of whether it is SME or big enterprises. That means that merging, acquisition, these are the things that still we got to educate ourselves. We do not really know that how we will end up if we do the merging. The strategic partnership is needed for the business to grow, but we need more education on the merging and acquisition. The reason behind is that if the merging is being taken place within the country, then we know each other. But if the merging it comes from some other countries, we need to take support from the legal advisor. We need to take support from the expert who really knows that how the merging and acquisition takes place, and having a different name with the merging, that how the business will grow and how we can do the global business by this merging and acquisition. Another thing is that recently we see bank default, that non-performing loan is almost more than 14% of the total investment. But non-performing loan, we always say that defaulter, But defaulter in true sense, somebody is defaulting willingly and somebody is defaulting due to the so many reasons. That means that the global financial crisis or the Eurozone crisis or the local any instability or political instability. So any company who wants to wind up, really they do not know that what is the procedure. Unfortunately, I do not know that whether we have the bankruptcy law in force. We really do not know that, but for the whole world, bankruptcy, insolvency is a common phenomenon. It is happening everywhere. It is happening every day. But out of 140,000 companies, as Mr. Rahman has said, only 40% is giving their account, but 60% really do not know. That means that one nice morning that companies, they'll be having a problem from the regulatory body. But the company owners, they do not know how to make the exit, where to get this insolvency certificate, and how to wind up a company. So these are the things that the merging, acquisition, amalgamation, and insolvency. If we can talk about this thing today, I'm pretty sure that the business will grow and the business will go into a different height, because the GDP size of Bangladesh is now $250 billion. Out of $250 billion, we have seen over the last decade, we have been making a growth of more than 6%. Last year even we have made growth over 7%. That means every year we are adding $14 billion into our GDP. And if you talk about the profitability, there is nothing to be so much confidential. I'm really happy to say that most of the companies in Bangladesh, they do a profit of double digit. So 10 years back, the whole world was talking about the BRICS, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. Now we are talking about this emerging economy. Nobody talks about the sleeping economy, the sleeping tiger. It is Bangladesh. Most of the manufacturing plant in China, which were being owned by the Japanese owner, now slowly they wanted to shift it into Myanmar. But Myanmar, they do not have any social infrastructure. Myanmar, they do not have any financial infrastructure. Their dream is over. So they are coming to Bangladesh. So if they come to Bangladesh, I think that let's we start talking about the corporate culture. Let's we practice the corporate culture. Let's we think about merging with another company. Let's we think about acquisition. And I will say that if we think about all these things, still some small companies, they will need some exit. We can also talk about this thing. So by saying this thing, I would like to end, and again I would like to congratulate Rahman Chamber, and I hope all the success in the years to come. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.